The phrase purpose driven has become very popular in the past years, but how does it apply to our lives and our businesses with purpose driven profits? And what part does innovation play in this process, especially for creators? So today we speak with Roy Dekel. He is an American Israeli investor and a serial entrepreneur who has co-founded, scaled, and exited multiple successful ventures. And he's also a dedicated philanthropist and a contributor to publications you've probably heard of, Entrepreneur, Inc. magazine, and we'll uncover some of the secrets to growth and to living a purpose-driven life. So stay tuned. This podcast is brought to you by DJ Works Media and HalftimeSuccess.com, offering resources and insights for those at mid-career or the halftime of life. Explore our diverse categories, including courses, coaching, health, music, software, and travel. We're here to help you make this stage of life your best ever. So get our new articles, downloads, and podcasts by signing up for weekly updates at goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Well, I'm very, very excited to welcome Roy today. Roy, welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
I get to meet people from really all over the world and really with a lot of different backgrounds. And you had an interesting one I thought was I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit more to remind the audience. Of course, you can find us with, I have a newsletter that comes out. Make sure you don't miss a single podcast, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. My husband always tells me, say that slower. So I think if you got that, it'll be in the show notes. Also, halftimesuccess.com. That's our affiliate program. Have a lot of podcast guests who are on that as well with some of their products. So, which is really fun. I love to help them promote. So, Roy, thank you. I like my guests to give more of their background. You have an interesting one as you have military service even in Israel, a background. Oh my goodness, what is that all about? So why don't you give a little bit of your background to share where you're at, because you've been very successful in business and philanthropy.
So first off, thank you, Deborah. That's a lot. And your husband sounds like my wife, just so you know.
Okay.
So I'm a speed talker. I'm a fast talker. So I need to enunciate. I need to pronounce everything. So I'm going to slow down and try not to be boring because, it's all about putting good, narrative out there and helping everybody that, we can help. But yes, my background, I'll try to keep it short. It's not your typical Silicon Valley, background. I'm actually an Israeli immigrant, like you said, and born and raised in Israel, in the northern part of Israel. And went to service, but I think what differentiates me is my craziness and obsession to do more and to do, better, for lack of a better term. And I volunteered to a unit called Chetet, which is the equivalent of the American Navy SEAL. Went through training, then went to the Officers Academy, the IDF Officers Academy, and graduated as an officer. Retired or left the military in around 2002 as a lieutenant. And basically came to the U.S., met my wife, fell in love, and for lack of a better term, got stuck. I was planning to go back, but I got stuck. And that was fun. But fast forward from there, being an immigrant with limited options, I didn't have a college degree. I did not have a background in engineering, coding, computer science, everything that obviously was in the up and up. The only thing I was able to do is sales. So I said, okay, let's do sales. What does it mean to do sales? And I, long story short, sold Kirby vacuum cleaners and realized that I actually like business development. I like sales. I like to be the pitch man. So I evolved through the journey journey of multiple businesses. I flopped several of them, failed multiple times, and actually exited successfully several of them. So, fast forward to today, I'm implementing everything that I've experienced in the business world, buying, selling businesses and real estate, tech, and you name it, and basically doing the same on the business side, from acquisition, buying and selling businesses, and from a personal side, is actually mentoring on the philanthropy side, mentoring teenagers and entrepreneurs, and for lack of a better term, entrepreneurs, right? At their early stage of their careers, and that's one of the things I'm very passionate about.
Oh, that's so much fun. I have not met anybody like recently that has sold Kirby vacuum cleaners. That name goes way back for me. It's like, oh my goodness. And that's a tough one too. Door to door, I'm sure. That's but that
Yep.
gives you a lot of experience, doesn't it? A lot of no's, maybe some yeses. So you survive through it. So and I love that you said you failed businesses too, because that's one of the best learning processes we can have. People are afraid to fail. They're at mid-career, halftime of life. It's like, okay, now I'm ready to get on with it, and just, okay, don't want to take too many risks and all of that. So let's expand on that just a tiny bit more on what you learned through failure. And then we're going to talk about this venture capital landscape because I've interviewed those who are in angel investing and in, some philanthropy, but now with your business, this is, we've got an interesting society right now, and things are changing. And so, talk about some of your failures, what you've learned, though, because we want to learn from those failures. Can you pinpoint one or two things from those things?
Well, I could pinpoint a whole lot more than two things. We all know that we learn more from our failures and less from our success.
Yeah.
So it's okay to fail, and I think that's lesson number one, right? Anybody
Mhm.
that is afraid of failing or doesn't see the benefit of failing needs to fail once or twice.
Yep.
I say
Yep.
it to my kids all the time, which obviously were born more, I would say, more fortunate, have better childhood than I had, and it's really, I mean, it's all due to basically the amount of failures and challenges that you have in life. I think that most people are afraid of failure just because of its public relations stigma.
Mm.
I,
Oh,
I think,
interesting. Mhm.
in a universe where it's so easy to PR using social media,
Mhm.
the fear is just really exacerbated to different levels. I mean, failure is good, and the word no is good because both failure and no actually force you to move forward and to keep pushing. And that's lesson number one, I would say. Don't get stuck. Love the failure and keep pushing forward. Don't be afraid of the word no. Keep pushing forward. Don't be afraid of failure. Keep pushing forward and adjust. Adjust. Take your five top KPIs, the key performance indicators that you think attribute to the failure, and focus on those. And that's to summarize it. That's what I would learn from a failure.
It's funny when you mention social media. How many of us post our failures on social media? No. Like, yeah, you're always looking for kind of bragging about everything. Who have I met? Who have I been with? Yeah. So it is a little bit different. So, talk about this venture capital. First of all, explain your definition of venture capital because that's a big part of what you do right now because you've gone through loving sales, you figured that out. Buying and selling businesses, you've failed enough now to know how to be successful, apparently, because you have been and you're able to reinvest. So explain your definition of venture capital and that landscape.
So it's a good question. And not to be super technical, in simple term, what's the difference between angel, venture capital, private equity? If we're trying to really dissect the terminology,
Mhm.
venture is essentially institutional investments in early stage ideas or businesses.
Mm.
So really venture, I mean, we're venturing with our capital, right? And we're investing it as basically as a professional investor in pre-seed, seed, and Series A, B, and then from the season above, it's usually private equity group that are looking for a different multiplier. They have a different tolerance for time horizon. Usually, it's shorter. VCs invest in 100 businesses and at early stage hope for 1,000x return, the hockey stick, and they have a little bit longer tolerance for time frame. That's really what VCs are. And I just want a small adjustment. We invest like VCs, but essentially we're leveraging our own capital, investing our own capital. So it's VC also has funds and limited partners. Again, not that it's necessarily so important to founders. It wasn't important to me as a founder as well, but that's the technical terminology of VC.
That's great because, I listen a lot to, startups and how they made it and how they failed and love that to be able to watch the journey. And many of them are at a stage whether they keep bootstrapping or they need investment. And you have to have investment if you have product. You just do. How are you going to sell a certain product to a national chain and have enough product for a national chain unless you have additional investment? So that venture capital, a lot of that happens at that very beginning where you see a promising product. And I like talking with some of these inventors too. I just had another interview with one that, has a patented product and you're trying to get, more funding and more support to really be able to promote it even. So there's a lot of that that goes in, I'm sure, with that venture capital definition in your definition. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, there is a lot, and again,
Hmm.
it's we're talking about VCs of venture capital, but
Hmm.
there are different ways to capitalize a business, and there are different ways to leverage, and
Hmm.
sometimes even debt can be a good solution. So there's venture
Hmm.
debt. There are a lot of ways to capitalize a business, and
Yeah.
it's really a question of what's a good fit for you personally.
Right.
It's the key test is how do you go to bed at night? I mean, are you happy or are you unhappy? That's
Yeah.
the test that you need
Yeah.
to run.
And I think my main mantra for encouraging those who are going into this at all is just to make sure you do your research. So, when you talk about all of the different ways of, the venture debt, venture, all of that, it's like, okay, my eyes will cross very soon. My husband has been in finance. He'd be fine, so I bring him on for those. But I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a creator. So it's very, very important for us to have that sort of education and to listen to things about that. Okay, so what are these different terms? And you can find all of those online now, but it's important to know all of the different options and being able to do that. So um, let's talk about you talk about some of the main challenges right now. You've been in this. How many years now, again, have you been, was it 2002 that you came to the US? When did you start really buying and selling those businesses after your Kirby vacuums and all of the other things that you were doing?
Well, the starting point for me was October 2nd, 2002, but who's counting, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. We're not all that old. No. Yeah.
no, well, it's a very good and loaded question. Kirby, October 2020, 2002.
Mhm.
And the evolution of probably 15 different businesses took place since then.
Mhm.
The investments and the acquisition of businesses started in recent years, and it was an extension of an exit. We had
Mhm.
multiple, but we had one of the most recent exits that we had, which was actually in the fintech space, led us to say, we've learned a lot from our failures, and now we can actually help others, and
Wow.
we can do it with a gain, which is the investment side, and we can do it, for charities. So, that's on the philanthropy side. As far as sorry, I mean, as far as challenges that we
Mhm.
view these days,
Mhm.
um, I don't want to over glorify it because the challenges are the same as in the 80s and the same
Wow.
as in the 90s.
Mhm.
and the challenges for entrepreneurs, and again, I'm still an entrepreneur. Every business that we
Yeah.
buy, we
Mhm.
basically operate together
Mhm.
with the founder as the CEO. But the challenges are the same. But the exciting thing about these days is that we're in the third year of a major evolution and a revolution, which is the artificial intelligence. And
Yes.
if you're going backwards in the last
Mm,
40 years, I mean, first you have the computers, then it's actually 50, 60 years at this point. You had the computers, you had the internet and the cloud, you had the social media and, all of those sites. And then you had mobile application and mobile phone, sorry.
mhm.
And then you are in the artificial intelligence phase where there's so many new opportunities now that we didn't have years and years ago. So I'm actually not vilifying AI. It's a great positive thing for the
Mhm.
challenges that we're dealing as entrepreneurs these days.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Some of the principle, it's like some of the business principles, even though, we have 10 years later, 20 years later, whatever. The basic principles are the same. I talk about core values. Core values are the same. It, they're just going to switch. They're not going to really switch, but they'll be kind of a different focus at different points of your life and how you define the next stage of your life. But those values, those are, family values for me. There's a lot of those values that are going to stay the same. So that's interesting that the main challenges with all of this, those are basically there. Let's talk a little bit about the digital tools and the sales development. And AI is huge. I've been doing a lot more research. I use, some digital tools. Of course, I use automation all the time. I have for years. Okay. Now it's exploded. So, but you really have to decide what you're going to use because it will take over your life because you can be an endless churn of finding some new tool. Don't waste your time on that. So I'm telling you,
100%.
um, but but don't be afraid of it either because it is powerful. There are tools. So can you talk about maybe even sales development in that and with the rise of some of those digital tools? Do you have suggestions? Do you have words of advice in there for us?
Oh, goodness. How much time do we have?
Yeah, I know, I know. Really, it is. It's an endless route. That's what I said at the beginning. This could be an endless rabbit hole right here, but
That beautiful, beautiful. Love it. All right. Don't tempt me with good time. But anyways, don't yeah.
yeah.
But well, first of all, I want to say something about the last thing that you said. The values are the same.
Yes.
Here's the key difference, and that's what we need to understand as founders and entrepreneurs. The
Yes.
speed for everything
Yes.
is what changed. So the
Yes.
speed to know
Mhm.
if I'm failing, change. The speed to
Mhm.
find new people, change. The speed to publicize using social
Mhm.
media, change. The speed to transmit information, change. And
Yes.
that is actually a powerful thing. And I'm a big believer in maintaining positive forward thinking, not the negative and the sluggish,
Mhm.
approach to life. And I think
Mhm.
that the change and the speed is an amazing thing. And I hold the
Yes.
same thoughts around artificial intelligence. I
Mhm.
am absolutely bullish, and I think that
Mhm.
most people that are using the negative connotation for AI are just designing it to get some publicity and clicks.
Yeah.
And here's how I view AI as it relates to your question, to business
Mhm.
development. And again, I said I can talk about it for hours now.
Yeah.
I actually just finished an event in Vegas last weekend where we actually trained 70 teenagers how to optimize artificial intelligence. And they actually had to build an entire campaign for one brand that they chose. And they had
Wow.
to build the social ads, the brand story, the videos, and you name it, from content to imagery. And the beauty of it, that it translates to an answer for the question that you just asked. Today, you can actually, as a founder, build an entire sales department very, very efficiently
Mhm.
using AI, both for voice, content, emails, and
Mm.
videos. And you
Yes.
can essentially, with the proper prompts, and they need to be really good and detailed prompts, as if you are
Yes.
basically training someone on sales development for your business,
Mhm.
you can leverage those tools from OpenAI,
Mhm.
ChatGPT to Sora to other
Yes.
products
Mhm.
to basically build your entire marketing stack and your
Yes.
entire sales training stack
Yes.
to start your business.
I love that. I mean, it's very, very true. And again, pick and choose, pick and choose wisely. But yeah, the speed and the difference. The very first music album I did, which was on cassette tape
Hmm.
and CD, dates me just a bit. But artwork. What did we do with artwork? We had to mail it back and forth, get a new artboard. I had, if I had changes, well, now I press a button on my computer and it's done. I work with an engineer. He moved to Hawaii. Just talk with him. I'm not producing anything right now, but who knows? In 5 years, I might do something else, or maybe a year. Who knows? Who knows?
Right.
I'm too busy right now. But I can just say, hey, I'd like to, can you take this track and enhance it for me? Do all of it. You can do this now just with digital tools. It's absolutely amazing
It is.
because the speed and some of the ability, and it's only going to grow. So don't be afraid of it, but they're like racehorses. I love horses. But I know enough about them. I'm not a horsewoman, but I know enough about them that there are different horses that have different strengths and different speeds and all of that. And we're going to harness ourselves to a faster and faster horse. So we just need to have enough the tools to be able to hang on and maneuver those tools to our advantage. So I don't know if that's a good illustration or not, but anyway, I was just
It is great. It is absolutely great. No,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
and again, going back to the same charity and the teen training that we did
yeah.
with the AI, we had one mentor, one of my partners, that came and spoke an event and said, don't let the AI make you stupid. In other words, don't delegate the task with no controls and no
Right.
bounds and boundaries. But
Mhm.
on the flip side, and going to the horse example, right? I
Mhm.
feel that the AI enrich my knowledge base because I actually use it to enrich my knowledge base, and I have fluid conversations both on the business development and the tools that we need in
Right.
businesses. And personally, instead of sending a Google prompt, I actually
Mhm.
go and have a full conversation with the AI to enrich my knowledge when I have a question
Yes.
about horses.
Yes. I do the exact same thing. And what you said about prompts is extremely important. You have to know enough to ask the right questions. It's just like an interview. You've got to ask the right questions to get the right answers or to get enough of an answer to build on. And I use quite a bit of it like I will put in paragraphs for into a tool like a Chat GPT or a
Hmm.
Google tool. There's a lot of them out there now. And just make this clearer. And all of a sudden, oh, I get some different words I hadn't thought about. This says the same thing, and I think, oh, that sounds a lot better. And I do always re-edit, but it's like a little virtual assistant, and we have it now. Don't be afraid of it. We have it. You just have to use it. You have to give it the right prompts. Otherwise, you're just going to get, general, you're going to get cornflakes back. Nothing against cornflakes, but, I like grape nuts or I like something, something with a little more meat on it. So, but, or, I should say, something other granola, whatever, but something with just a little bit more nutrition and more to it. That's going to have more to it. Now let's get into a hot button here because we're talking about not only AI, but the AI is influenced too by our political policies. Okay. So the moment you say political, people go, oh no, oh no, oh no. Yeah. Come on. You got to accept what's happening. You got to look at what happens. And there's always good with, the stuff that you're not, but you have to look logically and I have written about this now for some years. You have to use common sense. Don't just look and say, oh, what is everybody else doing? Use common sense. Use your brain. You have a God given brain. What's happening here now with political policies, especially I've read a lot too with AI because it's like that runaway horse. Okay. So how
Yeah.
are we going to be able to hold it? Well, probably not. So what's happening there and what is your opinion at least on this?
Again,
You're
how
going,
much
oh
time
boy,
do we have
I love
left?
that one.
How much time do we have left? uh,
Oh,
yeah, there should be a symbiotic relationship between innovators, entrepreneurs, founders, and politicians, but it's not always symbiotic. The
mhm,
truth of the matter, is that the life cycle of innovation goes through innovation, development, disruption, regulation.
mhm,
And that's just the reality of things. I mean, whether you agree with that or not, it's just a fact. I mean, I'd
mhm,
say, well, it is a fact. It's not an opinion.
mhm,
So we're seeing it accelerated because of the speed to action in today's society. I mean, social
mhm,
media and the ability for the president to talk with everybody at the press of a button on his mobile phone, right?
right, right.
So again, it's just faster, but it's the normal progression of innovation to regulation.
Yes. Mhm,
Look, at the end of the day, without bringing any political opinions to the conversation, right? I mean, it's a necessity. It's a
right.
necessity. I mean,
A
there's a
little bit,
certain level
yes.
of necessity because the regulation is, in my opinion, designed to help everybody. So people that may not be versed or study
Mhm,
what they're doing with the AI would have the regulators on their side. But the
mhm.
truth of the matter is that at the end of the day, the AI is just a sophisticated machine learning
Yeah,
code, right? I mean, it's a
yeah,
big
yeah.
data. And we feed the data with what's
Mhm,
important to us to benefit us. So
mhm.
every AI that we use, we essentially enriching it with additional data that's customized to us
Yeah,
to improve our lifestyle. We
right.
just need to understand what we wouldn't want to tell someone that, when we don't want to create the adverse effect. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. You basically have, I mean, the basics, again, we're going to get back to basics. There's machine learning, and then there's generative learning, and there's basics of what happens with AI, but you're just talking, it's just speed. Now it's multiplying. It's, exponentially. It's just like that compound interest. It's just going and going and going and going and going. And, if I put numbers into, a chat GPT or something like that, and say, what's compound interest in this many years? And I did this recently, and I mean, it is like not even a second later, I get the answer back. Well, you know how long that would take me on a calculator? Just forever. That would take me some days, for me anyway. But it's the speed of what's happening. But the information is already input in there. So a certain amount of that regulation, it does a little bit. My husband would talk about the financial stuff. He got out of a lot of the field because there was so much, he had a target on his back. When you start regulating so much that you can't even work, that's a
Yeah.
problem. That is a problem. He said, I don't want to be sued every time I turn around because now you have, too many. So that needs to be, at least looked at. But I think, some of the, you need some bumpers, just like bowling, you need a few little guidelines. And so that's what our regulations do. So very good answer on that. So let's talk about, we have a lot
I,
to
I,
talk about. This is,
I love your analogies, by the way.
oh, you do? Okay. Well, they just sort of pop in here, so it's like, okay, did I explain that enough? Am I talking way too fast? Which I end up doing. Um, how do the economic trends, now trends are big too. Every year we get some sort of, okay, trends for 2025. Now you have all of these 2025, we've got all these trends and where everything's going. So people are following those trends. And then next year they'll be following some more trends. But these trends like inflation and we have like interest rates, those are some things that we have to deal with. And there's news every day about, oh, okay, such and such eggs are going up. Okay, so that's another one. Everybody panics. Oh, panic, panic, buy eggs, and then there's this other, something else. What happened with COVID? Toilet paper? You couldn't even find toilet paper. I mean, it was like, okay, so panic, panic, panic. And sometimes that happens with some of those trends. So we have to be very careful. So, but how do these economic trends like inflation and interest rates, those things affect really business strategies? What do we need to think about, especially as entrepreneurs? I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, entrepreneurial types. They have small businesses, but entrepreneurial types. I'm a creative. So I'm an entrepreneur. I didn't even realize it was till, quite a bit. They didn't have that degree in college. I've
Yeah.
never even heard of
Yeah.
that word. So,
It's
but
French.
yeah,
You have to get a degree in French to learn it.
oh, good, good. That's what it is. So, what are some proactive steps that we can take with some of those economic trends?
Well, I'm gonna start with the end of the answer. You don't. You just do what you're passionate about and you go for it.
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
That's the end part. You go for it
okay.
because you are not a market timer and you can't time the market
Mm,
and you can't pretend that you have the abilities of Warren Buffett with five different Wall Street bankers. It just the reality of it is that even Warren Buffett and five different investment bankers or investment banks cannot really time the market. But you can try to extrapolate what the status is now, what you project the status to be, and kind of like maneuver around it. But whether you start your business or not, whether you hire your next partner or sales executive or not, those things I think you can still run without trying to time the market. The inflation and the trends that we've seen over the last 2 3 years obviously has been very challenging for industries such as real estate and
yes.
any business that was looking to borrow capital because the interest rates were high, and because the interest rates were high, mortgages were high, and if you were in a space of real estate, and we had multiple businesses in real estate and it wasn't fun.
Mhm.
But the truth of the matter is that if you manage your profit and loss right, and you manage your businesses right, and you still have the passion to what you do, and you believe in the product, then you can weather it. For example, real estate. I believe the next 2 years are go, go, go. I mean, you
Yes,
can't go wrong with real estate. We have an accounting
right.
software for real estate investors, and I just see investors using that left and right to acquire more properties. So there's tremendous amount of volatility, but interest rates are going to go down now, and mortgages are probably going to go down in the next 12 months, 24 months. And as a result, there'll be more real estate activity, right? So again, you can play the market, but ultimately just go for it.
Yeah. And I like that because people are afraid to start. There's that fear. It's afraid. They're afraid. Oh no, don't want to fail. That's what we start out with. You can't be afraid of just, you need to at least be smart. All right. Be smart, do your research, and then start. You have to start. You have to go. It's like those that are saying, oh, I know I need to take this course. Oh, I know I need to do this continuing education. I know I need to do this, but yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it tomorrow. Well, now it's like next year, and now it's the following year. I've known those that they've put it off their dreams for years. So start and keep moving ahead, right down where you are, where you want to be. So I think that's wise advice. And yeah, I think things, with the political and with the interest rates, we don't know because my husband watches the market very carefully. And it is up and down. Some days he has good days. Some days, a little more stress. I would not want to be in that business. Believe me, I would not. But, he watches those charts going up and down. And, he does still some investing. And he was an RIA for years. But yeah, but just some of that volatility, but you can't not be in it unless you're just going to totally kind of take yourself out and just ride everything with an index or
Yeah.
whatever. So yeah.
Yeah. And I like to equate business to personal fitness. When is a good time to start a diet?
Oh,
When
yes.
how many excuses can you manufacture in any given moment not
Mhm.
to go to the gym today or not eat that burger, right? I mean,
Yep.
it's exactly the same thing. Just do it. You want to be healthy? Just do it. Eat like, eat like medicine or eat
Yes.
medicine. I mean, all these lines, I don't want to repeat them, but at
Yes.
the end of the day, it's I see a very direct parallel between personal well-being, health and fitness and businesses, and you just need to go for it because that's good for you.
I love that. One of our sons decided to be a trainer, decided to put on 30 pounds he put on 30 pounds of muscle by just the way he worked
Wow.
out. And he had 2% body fat. He still does.
What?
I know, it's
Wow.
unbelievable. So he just, you know, but he has to eat to keep that, the weight on. Very strict, very strict. And with diet, it's just food is fuel. So there's mindsets with that. I get my body up to work out. I'm not that morning person. People think, oh, you're such a morning person. No, I just get up and I send my body to go work out. Then it's done. It's done. But, it just feels great for the rest of the day. And I'm done. The rest of the day, very important. And, the way you eat. I think that's a great analogy there, a great illustration of discipline of our lives.
I'm so it's great to use the term discipline, and I'm going to use another example. I'm stealing it from a UFC fighter that I met this weekend. We ask him, what's your motivation to do what you're doing over and over and over again? And it becomes obviously more and more important as you age and age.
Right. It
So what do you
does.
do to maintain that motivation? And he said, well, and he gave a very good answer, and I found it so intriguing. He said, well, motivation is for kids. I have disciplines. So I have the
Oh.
discipline to do what needs to be done every day, and I actually use it. In the last 5 days, I went to the gym, or 4 days,
Hmm.
I went to the gym.
Hmm.
Right, every day I drive, and I'm like, I don't want to do it, but I don't care about what I want. This is not a motivational speech in my head. This is a discipline to keep driving and go to the gym.
Wow. I like that. Yes, it is. It is a discipline. Again, a discipline are those bumper pads in the which
Yep.
actually, I tell you, I don't know how many gutter balls I've had playing, bowling, but at least they don't always go in the next lane. Hey, right? So that's really important. So let's switch gears just tiny bit because I'm going to go back to those acquisitions because there's, some people make money and you have too in your past and still do, I'm sure, by acquiring other businesses and then selling other businesses. So, but what do you look for in an acquisition and what makes a truly successful acquisition beyond just the financials? Because we're talking about really a purpose driven business here, as well as life and purpose driven profits.
It's an easy answer, and it's one that everybody should remember.
Mm.
It's the founder. It's
Mm.
that person that wants to sell the business. It's the entrepreneur, right? Going back to
Mhm.
French. It's the
Mhm.
entrepreneur. It's the person that has the purpose, had the
Mhm.
purpose, will have the purpose. I cannot bring more value to you on business that you build and you started from nothing, right? But what I want is I want a good partner in you. So
Mhm.
when we acquire, the idea is that you will still have an interest in the business. You'll still stick around. We're not buying a job, right? There's a lot of businesses
Mhm.
for sale there where people want to sell it and just go to another project. That's
Mhm.
fine. But if you really want to see the fruits of your success and 10x them, that's where VC becomes relevant.
Yeah.
That's where investor or a
Mhm.
professional investor become relevant because the idea is that we acquire, but
Mhm.
we leave enough strategic partnership with you
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
grow the business together. That's what we're looking for.
And I've seen this in the past of the businesses that do sell, and what happens if they're not a part of that. Um, the main purpose and the mission is changed. The
Correct.
whole business may change, and all of a sudden they realize, "Ugh, I'm running it into the ground." Yeah, and what's different? Well, you don't have the vision of that person, the founder. Some people just want out at a certain point, but there's certain businesses, they've been family run after generations. I guess these statistics are usually after 2 generations, a lot of times they sell them off. Sometimes they last longer, but the moment then maybe another totally outside company comes in, it things might change and things might not be, nearly as successful. In fact, some of those businesses just die at that point if you're not very, very careful with that. So I like that emphasis on that venture capitalism, how you are a part of that, um, sort of philanthropy there to be able to actually be a part of the mission and again, the purpose. So,
Right.
'cause
And at minimum, if you're really looking to exit and you want to leave, you just need to put in your head kind of like the thought that you will be part of the business for 3 years. Because
oh,
that's
okay.
on average the amount of time you really need to put in with a new partner, new buyer to get that organization up and running. So,
Mhm.
yeah, anything less than that would probably be doomed to fail.
Great advice. Great advice. And I don't have experience in that, so I'm glad for those listeners that all of a sudden they're going, "Oh, wow, that's great. I need to write that down, or I need to remember that." I have a family-run business. I need, because I've talked to also others that are, they help family-run businesses exit, the exit
Hmm.
strategy. But this is a great one, because they do want kind of out of it, but that commitment to be able to keep the mission very, very important. We've seen some in the past years that have just tanked because of that. Some of the, I'm not going to say the names, but you think, whoa, what happened? So, okay, so let's talk about growth. And then I want to talk about, I'm going to have you give information kind of at the end too, how to, either contact you or find out more. I loved your bio online. People need to read that. So, we'll send them to your website. All of those notes will be in the show notes. So don't be afraid of that. And sometimes I do write articles about these interviews too. I don't know if this one will be one, but I've got it on the queue here. So, but those come out every single week. So that's why you need to get our newsletter to make sure you don't miss those. But can, I love this question because there's so many of us that want to go, okay, I'm going to grow this much and I'm going to grow this much and I'm going to put these goals ahead. So that, how do you grow, organically and not just force this? Are there some clues here, from someone who has acquired different businesses? What do you see a trend there? Do you see little patterns that you can kind of just give some advice?
Well, the easiest answer to retain and to learn from is good product.
Uh huh.
There is no replacement to a good product. If you build the best product you can build, or the best product you believe you can build, that product is going to serve its purpose and it will get referrals, right? It'll be a word of mouth. And we
Mm-hmm.
saw that in some businesses, and it was pretty exciting to see how a business with $0 spent on Google ads or social ads, social media ads, just organically grew. So, and the reason was because there's the product attraction. There was the product attraction.
Mm-hmm.
So you really want to start with the first best product that you believe you can make. It can be the
Mm-hmm.
MVP, the most valuable
Mm-hmm.
product, but it has to be something. If you're opening a restaurant, you want your restaurant to have the best food in the area. So
Yes.
people would want to come, and maybe you'll
Yes.
get some critics that are going to write about you. It's
Mm-hmm.
the product.
Yeah. It was so funny because I was just telling some friends today that I was at an event, and over the weekend, this is, as I'm recording this, at least, this is Grammy weekend. And I've been up for some Grammys and all of that. So, but I was at a networking event. So, a friend and I were going together. So we were just, we met at this place kind of downtown Los Angeles. And we were kind of unfamiliar with the area. So we were going to just get a little something to eat at this one bakery. Well, we went in, there was nothing healthy in there, which of course is always tempting, but I didn't want to eat that for lunch. But two doors down, there was a line out the door. So, and on their signage was the best burritos in town. And you can have the best coffee, you can have the best burritos, all of those signs. We thought, okay, so we're going to try one of those. It was truly the best burrito I have ever had. It was amazing. I would go back. It was a 20-minute wait. We had like a little,
Where was that?
it was in downtown LA. It was
Uh,
so good. I I mean, I don't even know the name of it, to be honest, but I could look it up. But it was so good. But that's such an example of having, I mean, they had a lot of other things on their menu. But I said, there was that sign. Best burrito in town. I gotta try the burrito. We'd split one. It was plenty big. It was so good. And it was like, what do they put in? And it was, loads of meat, of which I am a meat leader. It was chicken and we had extra avocado. It was like, oh my gosh, it wasn't filled with a bunch of rice or other fillers. It was really good. So when you lead with your best product, that is something I have remembered for days. if it wasn't so far away, I'd go and like bring some home for dinner. So that is, and there's a place by us, very close to us, that I love their tortilla soup. I go and get some and bring. Those are the things when you mention restaurant, all of a sudden, I like food, but I don't like to cook really, but I do like good food. So, but that's something memorable. And it makes me think about, okay, so which courses are people really going to keep coming back to? I create courses, create a lot of product, and what are people going to continue coming back to? I get a lot of demands or like a lot of requests, I should say, on, you know, me interviewing them and doing all of
Mhm.
those sort of things. So you have to figure out what's working and kind of build on that. And I think that's a really, really, really good word of advice. So do you
Thank you.
have a word of advice? I like what you have been saying because it makes sense. It's common sense. You've had a lot of experience. What is a takeaway if someone's listening to this and they're going, "Okay, that was so good. So what can I do tomorrow? What can I do right now to help me move ahead in my life?"
Well, first off, do what you wanna do.
Ah,
The
okay.
the biggest regret, people are afraid of failure, and
Yeah.
actually now I'm stealing a line from Jeff Bezos.
Okay. Yeah.
People are afraid of failure, but they will regret not doing when they're 80 years old.
Ah, yes.
The Just do it. Wake up tomorrow morning. Wake up n Don't wake up, go now.
Yeah.
Finish listening
Yeah.
and
Yes.
go and do what you take the first action that you need towards what you wanna do, whether it's a
Right.
business or whether it's a
Mhm.
life, decision, personal,
Mhm.
relationship, whatever, just move
Right.
forward, move the needle forward, impact the
Mhm.
needle that much today and start doing it.
Yeah. Great word of advice. Yes. Excellent. Excellent. I just put a podcast out on you've got to start. You got to You're not going to stay on that running block and never run the race.
Mhm.
Why did you train? Why do you have all these years behind you and you're never going to go around the track? Yeah, you have to start. Get beyond. It's going to feel weird. Yes. But you start.
Mhm.
It's momentum. Momentum creates more momentum and excitement. And when people ask, "Oh, well, are you going to retire? Are you going to, okay, you got grandkids now. What are you going to do?" It's like, I'm not retiring. And what did we say before we started this? I said, I'm not going to quit until my boys put me in a home. So hopefully that won't be the case.
Hopefully
It'll
not.
only be when I lose my mind. So, hopefully that's not going to be the case. But yeah, find joy, find what you love to do, just love to do. I've got trademarked core common denominator. Part of that is uh, finding what you love to do, especially, identify all of that, then identify your experience, identify, the skills that you have and now what you can do. Dream a little. I mean, there's all this part of that. There's connections all the way through here. It's just like the wires going all the way through. So, Roy, how can people contact you? How can they find, again, this will be in the show notes, but say this if people are driving or if they're just, on their iPads or they're, listening as they're walking the dog, which I always do. How do they reach you?
Well, the easiest way to do it is go to Google or go to ChatGPT and say, "How do I contact Roy Dekel?" You'll find a lot there, but you can contact me on LinkedIn and Twitter. I'm pretty active on those social channels. It's the easiest way to connect with me.
Great. And you have a great website as well, roydekel.com, but all of that will be in the show notes too. So, Roy, thank you so much for being with us. It was just really delightful. I was really excited to meet you with your background as well. I have a special appreciation for anyone who's been in any a military, especially fighting for, truth and for their countries and all of that. So and you were a legal immigrant, and so I appreciate that as well because that you've gone through the process, and there's anytime you've gone through all of those processes, um, it means a lot that you would want to stay in this country, raise your family here, and develop business. Because when the businesses prosper, again, it's a multiplier effect that it helps others, it helps other businesses, it helps our economy. So very, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you again. Thank you for having me again.
Yep. And thank you all for joining us and staying all the way through here. And I will look forward, again, connect with us, but I'll look forward to being with you all again next time. So bye-bye for now. Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.